I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back. Got another match preview coming at you today. We got to bounce back, licking our wounds, need to move on because it is Watford in the Premier League. So, as always, your host, Brandon, joined by Nick and Dan. Gentlemen, we've got, as I said, just need to get it together, get our act in order, and take care of some business because if there's not a lot of teams worse than West Ham, Dan, in the Premier League table, Watford are one of them. They're not really in a relegation battle. They're more of an inevitably waiting the final decision of being relegated. Chelsea need to put them to the sword. We need the points.
Well, Watford are looking over the precipice, and they're the old adage of you only have to outrun another person while the bear is chasing you. And right now they are outrunning Norwich, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa, Nick. So Watford are going to be trying to keep the pace up pretty heavily in this match because they are staring down, they're looking down potentially at a championship return as well.
Yeah, I mean, since Nigel Pearson got there, they've had some pretty impressive results and a decent turnaround. Like you don't have to remember that far back when they were last in the table by a country mile earlier in the season. So I think they had 1 point from the first 7 or something like that. I mean, it's just, they're not a very talented squad, but they're certainly better than their league position suggests. And you remember that they thrashed Liverpool. So they're not talentless. In fact, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, we've struggled with them a little bit. You probably remember the infamous Tomoe Bakayoko game where he had the worst performance and a half that I've seen in a long time. They are tough. They're physical. They are going to annoy the hell out of Chelsea trying to play a more brilliant style of football. And Nigel Pearson is a bastard-goated bastard with bastard filling. I mean, the guy lives for these types of matchups, Brandon. He wants to make it difficult for Chelsea and probably will.
So the form guide going into this, just so you're all aware, obviously Chelsea were on an unbeaten run into the last 4, unfortunately disrupted by West Ham. On the other side, Watford, they beat Liverpool 3-0, as we said, right before the break. Since they've returned, they've lost 1-0 to Crystal Palace. They drew 1-1 to Leicester, lost 1-0 to Burnley, and most recently lost 3-1 to Southampton, who are a team who are pretty in form right now, surprisingly enough, as most of you have probably picked up Danny Ings in your fantasy team. But overall, with the statistics and the top players of every category, Chelsea's sweep outside of Eddie and Capoue tied for Azpilicueta with the number of tackles they have this season. And that's knowing that Watford have defended a hell of a lot more than Chelsea have this season. So, again, just with the way it's gone when we saw them in November, we actually, won 2-1, which is a good result. You had Tammy Abraham and Christian Pulisic scoring. They had a penalty with Gerard Deulofeu in the 80th minute. If you remember the Jorginho stuck his foot out. And then Ben Foster almost scoring at the death of it. So even the first time we played him this season, it wasn't straightforward. Now, after a global pandemic, and there's a weirdness to the fact that there's empty stadiums, they didn't have a preseason, all this stuff. Here we are. So as we look at it, boys, keys to this, it really comes down to scoring it again. Nick, if we can't put the ball in the back of the net when we create chances, I saw Mark War already tweeting that, you can expect Ben Foster to play like peak Banks, back in the day, because that's what they do when they play us.
I mean, the funny part about the Kepa moment is that was easily his best moment of the season, right? I mean, it's a game-winning save that he made on Ben Foster, a really, really good, difficult save. So you hope that's the guy that shows up in goal for us this time. We'll kind of see what our lineup prediction suggests, but it's, again, this is the exact team. I said this after our West Ham preview. This is the exact kind of team that we've struggled with all year. They're not going to play football. They're not going to come out of their blocks unless it's on a a really good counterattack opportunity. Chelsea are going to have to figure out a way to put them to the sword early, score a couple of goals, open them up so they have to play, and not leave this scoreless or tied at half, giving them the chance to kind of run the same play over and over again. Dan, I mean, it's really that simple to me.
Well, we think about the fact that they have some pretty beefy guys on their team. I'm thinking about one Troy Deeney up front, who, if we had problems with Antonio, we're going to have a lot of problems with Troy Deeney. Not necessarily the same speed, but just in terms of physicality. You think about, Christensen looked really great going up against Bernardo Silva up front. Did not necessarily look as great going up against Antonio, who is just a little bit more of a complete package when it comes to that standalone forward. So I think my primary concern is really going to be that, you look at their last match, they played a 4-5-1. They had a really compact midfield, and we have struggled in kind of retaining possession in that area in this last match versus West Ham. So I'm expecting Brandon long balls out of the back. I'm expecting them to try to break quickly, especially when you got players like Pereira and Capu and Sarr, who are going to definitely make life difficult for our midfielders and in our back line.
So you got Kevin Friend is the match official. See how that goes. From a Watford standpoint, they've got Daryl Janmaat, Gerard Deulofeu, and Isaac Success all out, but Nathaniel Chalobah available for them. We've seen him do a little bit against us. Sometimes he has that extra effort if he comes on as a sub, as he normally has. Yeah, again, look, with Watford style, it's very direct. Long balls, chasing it down, being a problem. They're aggressive. They're physical. We know we're not the biggest side. Can we play bigger than what we are? We know that Tomori is still not recovered. And now Kovacic is out with an Achilles injury. Not a major one, but he probably got kicked a few times back there, and it's sore. So if Kovacic is out for a couple games, he's a tough tackler who is going to go in for Chelsea to make sure that we can't get bullied out of this game, really, or kicked out of the game, because that all plays into Watford's hand. We know that with their big lineup, talked about Deeney and Eddie and Capu, and they have one more midfielder that I'm trying to pull up. Anyways, they're not a small side. So again, when we come back to defending set pieces and crosses, here we go again. It's the same old thing that we have to deal with.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments that, again, we've praised Lampard this year for making some really crucial adjustments at times, right? This has been an area that's been consistently bad all year. And I know that he mentioned in his post-match against West Ham that, tell our team equal more goals on set pieces. I get it. We can't just, super serum up our team like Captain America in the first movie and make them all taller, right? That's just not the way it's going to work. But you can try different tactics at these moments, right? One tactic change could be putting, someone like Tammy or Giroud on a taller player instead of on the near post, right? And put Dave there. If you remember back in the day when we were really good at defending set pieces, Ashley Cole was our man on the post, probably not the biggest guy, right? But was ready to kind of deal with stuff as it came in. So I would like to see some adjustments there. I think most fans are kind of calling out for that.
It'll be very interesting to see how quickly we adapt and how many changes Lampard is going to want to make in this starting lineup, especially with some players coming off of pretty poor or maybe even season low performances from this last match, Brandon.
Look, fatigue has not gone away in 3 days. A lot of these guys have played all the matches. There has to be rotation. The problem is I'm hesitant to rotate my lineup because I feel like we know who our best 11 are, and they've played a lot of minutes right now. So knowing that we absolutely need these points, I think it's going to be hard to kind of change your lineup too much if you're Frank, but he's going to have to. So I'm interested, Nick, what you think from a lineup perspective, what we'll do going into Watford, knowing that Crystal Palace is only a few days after this yet again. 72 hours later, we go again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because no Kovacic to me is the big one, right? He's not an option to come off the bench. So in my mind, the thing that you're trying to balance for Frank is who's the best player, who are the best players suited to this match? And then can I risk people like N'Golo and Willian and Pulisic, who have played the majority of the minutes so far? Can I risk any of them getting hurt? And the answer is obviously no. So I'm going with something a little weird. I think we're going to do a 4-3-3 simply because I think when Ruben came in to the midfield against West Ham, he looked like Ruben playing in a 3. He was able to drive in. He was able to receive the ball and press up and kind of do the Ruben-y things that we love. So I'm going with 4-3-3. I'm going Willie at the back. I think Kepa had a stinker and probably needs a little time on the bench. I'm going to trust Reece James again with Andreas Christensen, Kurt Zuma, and Azpilicueta as our left back, just because Marcos Alonso's been putting in a shift and Aspie's an Iron Man. I'm going to bring back from the deep bench Jorginho as our pivot with a Mount and Ruben midfield. And then I'm going Pulisic, Giroud, and Willian up front because I don't think we have another real option there, which scares me. So it's a weird one. It's a weird lineup.
I get it. Dan, what about you?
Oh, okay. Well, I think as much as I can see where Nick is coming from with bringing in Caballero to replace for Kepa, I just that's a decision where if you make it now, that's the rest of the season. Like if you switch to Willie now, you should just let him go for the remainder of the 6 Premier League matches and the possible 2 FA Cup matches. I don't know if Frank's there yet, but I think if we were to have a bad result in this match, that might end up being the case. I do think that with Reece James seeming to be healthy, I would want him back in the lineup. I would bring Zuma back in from the colds. I would pair him with Rudiger. I'd put Aspie out on the left side. I would do my midfield of Conte, Mount, and Loftus-Cheek. I think Conte and Mount are probably the 2 midfield undroppables right now. I think it's really that third spot is it Barkley, is it Kovacic, not in this match clearly, or is it Loftus-Cheek? And in this scenario, I'm going to go with Loftus-Cheek since Barkley started the last match, and we're seeing I need a little bit more presence. I need a little bit more forward ball movement and retention, which Ruben is much better at retention and can make decisions a little bit quicker than Barkley can. And then ahead of them, I'm going to go with Pulisic, who's, again, it has to be played. Willian has to be played, and Giroud over Tammy. And I think that I just want someone who's going to be a little bit more stand up and help lay out the balls to Willian and Christian to drive forward.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, spoiler alert, Willian, Giroud, Pulisic are the consistent in all of our lineups. And why wouldn't it be right now? Willian, we talked about his fantastic run since coming back. Same thing with Christian Pulisic. But I'm a little bit different. So I have Kepa in goal. And then I have a 4-2-3-1 ahead of him. So Aspie, Christensen, Zuma, Alonso. So we've all got Zuma as well and Aspie, just in different places. And I went with a 4-2-3-1 because while Conte is super fatigued, if you can put him where like, hey, just limit his role. We know you can go forward, but I'm just going to ask you to sit today. I want you to conserve your energy for the defensive side. I think we'll be able to preserve him as best we can with these long minutes. Then I've got Jorginho next to him because Jorginho can start the counterattack. He can literally, if him and Conte are close, Conte will win it. Short pass to Jorginho. Jorginho will go and start the counterattack. And then you've got Willian, Mount, Pulisic in front of him. Again, Mount is probably rested and ready to run. Willian is good at tracking back as needed. Same thing with Christian. And then you've got Giroud up top. And as much as we love Tammy right now, Tammy's not Tammy, not feeling it the way we saw early in the season. So we need to protect him again a little bit and just also say, hey, Giroud's in better form. You need to fight your way back into the lineup. We've talked about it a lot this season. Frank loves a meritocracy. That's where we're at. So again, I just want to use my formation to almost protect the team a little bit and some of the players to reduce their roles rather than just a wide open midfield. So look, we're not comfortable with these predictions, like putting these out there. And imagine Frank having to do it for real with real world consequences on the line. So anyways, send us your lineup predictions in the comments or on social media. We'll have a post on our Instagram as always. Big match. Wish we were going in a little bit more confident than we are against Watford, but hey, you know what? No matter what, we'll have a match review on the pods and on the YouTube afterwards. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.